This is SpaceTime, Series 28, Episode 110, for broadcast on the 12th of September 2025. Coming up on SpaceTime, another clue about the origins of Earth's water, Israel launches a new spy satellite, and discovery of a new high-energy rocket fuel. All that and more coming up on SpaceTime.
Welcome to SpaceTime with Stuart Gary.
Water is essential for life as we know it. Now, a new study has shown that the composition of water on the Comet 12P Pons-Brooks has the same isotopic signature as Earth's oceans. The findings, reported in the journal Nature Astronomy, strengthens the idea that comets may have played a crucial role in delivering water and possibly some of the molecular ingredients for life itself to planet Earth. The new research is based on observations by ALMA, the Atacama Large Millimetre Submillimeter Array telescope in Chile. It revealed that water in the Halley-type Comet 12P has an isotopic composition virtually identical to that found in Earth's oceans. Now, depending on which hypothesis you prefer, Earth's water either formed in situ as the planet itself condensed out of the protoplanetary disk around the still nascent Sun some 4.6 billion years ago, or alternatively through impacts by comets, asteroids and meteoroids. Now, in that second hypothesis, for a long time scientists thought comets may have been the likely origin. That's because they're composed of a lot of water ice. But as they grew better at analysing cometary composition, scientists discovered that the actual composition of the water, that is the deuterium to hydrogen ratio, didn't match that which we found here on Earth. While previous measurements in many comets showed significant differences from Earth's water, the new results provide the strongest evidence yet that at least some Halley-type comets carried water with the same chemical fingerprint as that found here on Earth. Astronomers use ALMA's sensitivity and imaging capabilities to measure the comet's coma, that's the cloud of gas surrounding its nucleus. They looked at the spatial distribution of both ordinary water, that's hydrogen and oxygen, H2O, and also heavy water, that's water containing deuterium, an isotope of hydrogen which contains a neutron as well as the proton in its nucleus. These observations, made as 12P Pons-Brooks approached the Sun, were combined with infrared measurements from NASA's Infrared Telescope facility to determine the ratio of deuterium to hydrogen with unprecedented precision for a comet of this class. By mapping both regular and heavy water in these cometary comas, astronomers can tell if these gases are coming from the frozen ices within the solid body of the nucleus rather than forming from chemistry or other processes in the gaseous coma. The study's lead author, Martha Cordner from NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland, says the deuterium to hydrogen ratio was the lowest ever measured in a Halley-type comet, and it falls at the lower end of all cometary values, in the process matching Earth's oceans. Cordner says comets are frozen relics left over from the birth of the solar system. The new results provide the strongest evidence yet that at least some Halley-type comets carried water with the same isotopic signatures as that found on Earth. That supports the idea that comets could have at least helped make our planet habitable. This is SpaceTime. Still to come, Israel launches a new spy satellite and discovery of a new high-energy rocket fuel. All that and more still to come on SpaceTime. Israel has launched a new advanced spy satellite to monitor terrorist activities across the trouble-plagued Middle East. The OFEC, or Horizon 19 surveillance satellite, was launched aboard a Shavat Comet 2 three-stage rocket from the Palmachim Air Base spaceport near Tel Aviv. The launch caused a brief panic in Tel Aviv and central Israel, where residents mistook the orbital rocket for an interceptor missile. The IDF says the spacecraft successfully entered orbit and was performing as planned, passing a series of initial tests and transmitting data. The launch comes as Jerusalem continues its war against multiple Palestinian terrorist groups in response to the October 7 attacks, which saw the massacre and rape of over 1,200 Israeli civilians, including many children. Since Palestinians began their attacks, Iran, together with Iranian-backed terror groups, have fired over 1,000 ballistic missiles and tens of thousands of rockets at Israel, with Tehran also financing thousands of often violent hate protests around the world, including anti-Semitic attacks reminiscent of the Nazis in the lead-up to the Holocaust. Jerusalem says the Jewish state's response will only end when Palestinians return the hostages they kidnapped on October 7 and Hamas terrorists surrender their weapons. The OFEC-19 spacecraft is equipped with high-resolution optical and multispectral synthetic aperture radar systems, providing continuous imagery coverage day and night in all weather conditions. The new satellite will serve as a force multiplier, able to image objects with resolutions down to under 50 centimetres day or night. The spacecraft was developed by Israel Aerospace Industries, the IDF, including Unit 9900 of the Intelligence Directorate, and the Israeli Air Force. It joins a growing constellation of IDF intelligence-gathering reconnaissance satellites, which include optical, infrared, radar, and electronic signal surveillance capabilities. This is SpaceTime. Still to come, discovery of a new high-energy rocket fuel. And later in the science report, researchers develop a glue gun which can print out bone grafts. All that and more still to come on SpaceTime. Okay, let's take a break from our show for a word from our sponsor, Insta360, the trailblazers in 360 and action cameras, pushing the boundaries of what's possible for creators everywhere. The Go Ultra, a pocket-sized camera that's redefining how you capture life's adventures. Imagine it, a camera no bigger than an Oreo, weighing just 53 grams, yet packed with the power to shoot buttery-smooth 4K video at 60 frames per second. It's small enough to slip into your pocket, but delivers professional-grade footage that'll make your vlogs, travel diaries or family moments look absolutely stunning. Its magnetic mounting system lets you get creative with your shots in seconds. You can clip it to your shirt or hat for hands-free POV footage while you're running, biking or chasing your kids around the park. Or you can stick it on any magnetic surface like bike frames, gym equipment or even a street sign for those unique angles that no other camera can match. Plus, with flow state stabilization and 360 horizon lock, your footage stays silky smooth and perfectly level, no matter how wild the action gets. And in terms of battery life, the Go Ultra's got you covered, with a next-generation stacked polymer battery. The standalone camera runs for 70 minutes, and when paired with the Action Pod, you'll get up to 200 minutes of shooting time. And here's the best part. For the first 30 SpaceTime listeners who purchase the Insta360 Go Ultra at store.insta360.com, you'll score a free Sticky Tabs accessory to mount your camera on anything from backpacks to winter jackets. Just use the promo code SpaceTime at the checkout. That's store.insta360.com, promo code SpaceTime. Just go to our links page for full details and descriptions. So don't miss out on this titan of a camera that's ready to capture your world like never before. That's the Insta360 Go Ultra. And now it's back to our show. Scientists have created a new high-energy compound that could revolutionize rocket fuel, making space flights more efficient. A report in the Journal of the American Chemical Society says that upon ignition, the new compound releases more energy relative to its weight and volume compared to current fuels. Now, in a rocket, this would mean less fuel required for the same flight duration, or increased payload and more room for mission-critical supplies. The newly synthesized compound, known as manganese diboride, is over 20% more energetic by weight and about 150% more energetic by volume compared to the aluminum currently used in solid rocket boosters. And despite being highly energetic, it's also very safe. In fact, it only combusts when it meets an ignition agent like kerosene. Manganese diboride belongs to a class of chemical compounds thought to have unusual properties. Yet exploring exactly what these properties entail has been limited by an inability to actually produce the substance. One of the researchers involved in the project, Joseph Doan from the University of Albany, says diborides first started getting attention way back in the 1960s.
Booster ignition and liftoff of Discovery.
Ramjet technology and rockets is really a focus for the United States as well as the rest of the world. So in current solid-state rocket engines, they use aluminum powderized as part of their formulation. But now with manganese diboride, we hope to see that we have a large enough return on the investment to say, yes, we should be swapping out aluminum and see if we can get more bang for our buck out of igniting this material over the standard materials. If you translate the energy that we discovered into energy per cubic centimeter, we are actually 148% more energy dense than the aluminum that's being used. You could actually load less manganese diboride to make it the same distance, which allows you to put more weight on the rocket itself to transport key mission equipment. This enables us to take more with us to do more research in distant places. SpaceX, NASA, satellite companies, any of those low Earth orbit applications could certainly be used for this.
Now, since those initial looks, new technologies are now allowing scientists to actually synthesize chemical compounds that were once only hypothesized to exist. Knowing what scientists do about the elements on the periodic table, the authors suspected that manganese diboride would be structurally asymmetrical and unstable, factors which together would make it highly energetic. But until recently, they couldn't test the idea because they couldn't make it. Successfully synthesizing pure manganese diboride is an exciting achievement in itself. It means they can now test it experimentally and discover new ways to use it. Synthesizing manganese diboride requires extreme heat generated using a tool called an arc melter. The first step involves pressing manganese and boron powders together into a pellet, which is then placed in a small reinforced glass chamber. The arc melter then trains a narrow electrical current on the pellet, heating it to a scorching 3,000 degrees Celsius, half the temperature of the sun's surface. The molten material is then rapidly cooled to lock the structure in place. Now, at the atomic level, the process forces the central manganese atom to bond to too many other atoms, making for an overly crowded structure packed tight like a coiled spring. When exploring new chemical compounds, being able to physically produce the compound is crucial. You also need to be able to define its molecular structure in order to better understand why it behaves the way it does. Another one of the researchers, Gregory John, also from the University of Albany, built computer models to visualize manganese diboride's molecular structure. And these models revealed something crucial, a subtle skew known as a deformation, which gives the compound its high potential energy. John says the model of the manganese diboride compound looks a lot like the cross-section of an ice cream sandwich, where the outer cookies are made of a lattice structure composed of interlocking hexagons. John says when you look closely, you can see that the hexagons aren't perfectly symmetrical. They're all just a little bit skewed. That's deformation. By measuring the degree of deformation, they can use that measure as a proxy to determine the amount of energy stored in the material. And that skew is where the energy is stored.
I specialize in material science. I'm a computational chemist. So you're not going to see me in the wet lab mixing chemicals. You're going to see me in the computer lab doing calculations, frantically scribbling on the whiteboard with my head in my hands. Once we got past the initial point of whether they had really produced what they thought they had produced, the initial calculations I started running were just to see, does this all check out? You know, is this all kosher? Is this even possible? And from that point, I started trying to model the material. The material is almost like a layer cake of alternating layers of boron and metal, and they're perfectly flat. And so I set out trying to come up with a model where we could force it to deform artificially. The effect of that is now the material is storing a lot of energy like a spring. Once we combust it, that energy is released and accounts for the larger energy of combustion than the other similar materials, which don't have that sort of internal strain. The rocket fuel project that we're talking about right now, I've been telling my family, like, oh yeah, like we just figured out this and blah, blah, blah. The more bleeding edge or the less there is known about the problem that I'm working on, the happier I am.
This is Space Time. And time now to take another brief look at some of the other stories making news in science this week with the Science Report. Scientists have modified a glue gun to print out bone grafts, which they say could be 3D printed directly onto fractures and defects during surgery. A report in the journal Device claims the new tool has already been tested and found to quickly create complex bone implants without the need for prefabricated parts being made in advance. The new grafts were shown to have both high structural flexibility as well as the ability to release anti-inflammatory antibiotics and aid natural bone regrowth at the grafting site. Current methods of fixing bones use either metal, donor bone, or 3D printed materials to repair the break, all of which take time to build or repair in the case of irregular bone breaks. But now the authors were able to print in situ, taking a feature of natural bone that's known to promote healing and a biocompatible plastic and mixing them together into a sort of glue, which will then bind and conform to the jagged grooves of a fractured bone. A new study warns that unfit preteens carrying extra belly fat are more likely to suffer from mental health issues. A report in the Journal of the American Medical Association found that pre-adolescent kids who are carrying extra weight around their middle, as well as those with bad cardio fitness, could be more likely to experience symptoms of anxiety and depression compared with their leaner, fitter peers. The study looked at over 200 kids aged 8 to 11, found that greater lean mass and higher fitness levels in the kids was linked to fewer anxiety and depression symptoms, whereas higher levels of fat around their organs was linked to higher levels of both. A new study has shown that explosions of diversity throughout the evolution of the plant-animal kingdom today likely explain why some groups of species are so dominant. Scientists were investigating why some groups of species evolved from a single ancestor to become dominant. For example, beetles make up some 40% of modern-day insects, and 85% of plants are flowering plants. A report in the journal Frontiers in Ecology and Evolution analysed more than 300,000 plant species, over 1 million insect species, and in excess of 1.5 million other animal species. They found a consistent pattern where the majority of species were part of disproportionately large clades, likely as a result of explosions of diversity when an ancestor had an evolutionary breakthrough, such as developing flight, moving to a new area, or new relationships with other species. A recent survey has found that almost half of News Nation viewers believe the United States government is concealing information about unidentified flying objects. Tim Mendham from Australian Skeptics says the nationwide poll found that 44% of those surveyed think the government's hiding something.
The survey poll carried out by an online TV network called News Nation and another group called Decision Desk. They found that in April of this year, of 2025, they found that 44% of Americans think the government is concealing information about unidentified flying objects. The interesting thing, because News Nation is a big promoter of UFO myths and conspiracies, and it features the Australian journalist Ross Coulthard, who has this ongoing series of programs claiming that any day now the proof is going to be revealed about UFOs. But anyway, so this audience from News Nation, and I don't know how they did the survey, whether it was sort of people just phoned in with their views or whether they just surveyed their own audience somehow, and their audience would tend to have a higher belief in UFOs and things because that's the way the TV program goes. Almost half of the people who are aged under 30 said they believed the government was hiding something. News Nation is big on conspiracy theories. People early 40s, etc., much the same percentages, but only 34% of baby boomers, those born between 46 and 64, said the same. It's almost like a statistical issue. 44% of Americans think the government's concealing it, but only 34% of those who are over a certain age, in their 60s, 70s, 80s. Belief is strongest amongst those with a high school diploma or less, so it's an education thing. It's lower, 36%. Among college graduates, the belief is higher among non-white ethnic groups, but that also might be associated with education background, partially. The thing is, it's still high numbers. 34% is the lowest number among baby boomers think that the government is covering up information. It's like it's a no-win situation. A third of people think there's a conspiracy. And there's a...
Well, they're probably right. There is a conspiracy the government is covering up, but it's not aliens from another planet. It's black projects by the US military.
Yeah, I know. The whole point about UFOs is they're unidentified. So you can't jump to the fact that say they're aliens. They're unidentified. You don't know what they are. So you can't really jump to say they're unidentified, but I know what they are because you've just identified them. It's a strange anomaly there that this belief in things that we don't know exist, that we have never identified, as suddenly the subject of government conspiracies. Perhaps that's why we don't know what they are, because the government's covering them up. It's a too easy answer held by a lot of people, especially in America, and this particular News Nation operation is very much pro-UFOs and that sort of stuff. So I would take what they say with a heavy grain of salt.
That's Tim Mendham from Australian Skeptics. And that's the show for now. SpaceTime is available every Monday, Wednesday and Friday through Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Podcast, Pocket Casts, Spotify, Acast, Amazon Music, Bytes.com, SoundCloud, YouTube, your favourite podcast download provider, and from spacetimewithstuartgary.com. SpaceTime's also broadcast through the National Science Foundation on Science Zone Radio and on both iHeartRadio and TuneIn Radio. And you can help to support our show by visiting the SpaceTime store for a range of promotional merchandising goodies, or by becoming a SpaceTime patron, which gives you access to triple-episode commercial-free versions of the show, as well as lots of bonus audio content which doesn't go to air, access to our exclusive Facebook group, and other rewards. Just go to spacetimewithstuartgary.com for full details.
You've been listening to SpaceTime with Stuart Gary. This has been another quality podcast production from Bytes.com.